Back with more Buffy. This is episode 17 of season 7. Very excited to carry on and see what's going to happen next. Last episode was really good. I loved what they kind of did, focusing on Andrew and seeing a lot of the characters through his eyes. But alongside that, we had some really nice kind of stuff with Xander and Anya. And it seems to have been the end for those two, which is very sad. And we had Andrew kind of facing up to his actions properly, and very kind of bleak, melancholy ending as well, when I think it really hit him, potentially for the first true time, how serious this was, and the fact that, he could die and people aren't necessarily going to make it through this, as both he said and Buffy said in the episode. So you can see them gearing more and more towards the end of the season and the show, this final confrontation, which makes me nervous, but either way, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen next. So let's get into the next one.
Got the moves, don't you? I want to ride you hard before I put you away, though.
Oh man, was he there watching it?
Love the code.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Always gotta work the mission. Look at me. You know I love you.
He's certainly doing that now.
But I got a job to do.
It was like in Fall for Love with the porky or something, wasn't it? Not the bins.
Steak's your friend. Don't be afraid to use it.
I don't think he is. Oh.
Just waiting for my moment. You remind me of my
Your mother?
Yeah.
Wonder what that is.
Yeah, what I remember of her anyway.
Maybe everything is fine.
Everything's terrible. Total catastrophe.
Charles, what's wrong?
Have you seen the new library? There's nothing but computers. It's not a book. I don't know where to begin, but knowledge comes from crafted bindings. And
I love that he's still so passionate about like the traditions when it comes to that.
So, did you bring back any potentials?
So he has a trigger, a soul, and a chip? Not anymore.
It was killing him, Giles.
What a collection.
Trigger.
No, the chip. The trigger's not active anymore.
Because the military gave him a soul.
Yeah.
How's it work? That would require a bit of magic. Well, we couldn't have put these.
Always a good thing.
Go. We gotta work on Spike now at all times.
What?
Nothing.
You don't want to be in the middle of the final battle and then he turns on you.
You can break its hold on you.
Hopefully. So
The first time this happened to him, it kind of restricted him, and now this time it could free him.
Bodake.
Clever, but gross.
That's to access the cerebral cortex via the optic nerve.
Bollocks. All the rubbish people keep sticking in my head. It's wonder there's any room for my brain.
I don't think it takes up that much.
Guthlinger painting pictures in my mind. Her eyes.
Are we seeing William?
Balls of honey. Angels' hearts her laugh.
Oh my god.
Dark.
Would that be the Underwood's eldest girl?
No. I do not presume.
Oh, she's lovely.
Is
You
she?
shouldn't be alone.
Like I was seeing flashbacks to him and his mum, and Wood and his mum. I was going to say she didn't look too well.
Early one morning, just as the sun was
Is that the song? If they've used that as like his trigger, that's so mean. So that comes from like such a relationship of pure love, and it makes him hate. Oh well. Okay. Well, we got some confirmation at least. Oh shit! Oh shit! I mean, I know it's a terrible idea, but Willow knows a good memory wipe spell.
Spike's got some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card that doesn't apply to the rest of us. I mean, he could slaughter 100 frat boys. Forgiveness makes us human.
Hello, call for you from LA. Somebody named Fred. Guy sounds kind of effeminate.
Look, Spike, listen to me. What is it about your mother?
I don't know. I got along fine with her. She was a nice lady.
Well, there has to be more than that.
Well, there bloody well isn't!
Sorry, gents. I just need to.
I'm going to unchain him.
I need to pause for a minute.
This
Pause!
is Giles.
Pause!
Doesn't know anything.
Pause.
Okay, I've digested that. If we get Willow and Fred interacting, I will die. I will actually die. But let's continue.
She was a nice lady.
Well, there has to be more than that.
Well, there bloody well isn't!
Did she die in the traumatic way?
I'm lying to you, and
Uh-oh. He hasn't had to process all this with the soul before.
such a pretty.
Oh! You're giving me a Fred mention and then you give me Drusilla?
You want to bring your mum with us?
Well, yeah. You needn't have worried, Mother.
I'm dead,
You don't have
but
to worry
don't
about
worry.
anything again. No more sickness. No more dying.
Yeah, it would save her.
You'll never age another day. We'll be together forever.
Well, I don't think it turns out that way.
Yeah. Buffy, I'm gonna have to take off for a while, maybe a day or two. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. I'll give you the full scoop later. Maybe I'll even bring back some good news. Could use a little bit. Okay, I guess now is as good a time as we're likely to see for a while.
Is she going to be on Angel? I don't know about that.
Buffy.
He's clearly not cooperating.
I was raised by a watcher,
You were?
Bernard Crawley. Took me in when I was a young kid. Trained me.
Oh.
Spike killed your mother.
Yes.
There's a conflict of interest, for sure. But he's also not wrong about the trigger thing.
He's an instrument of evil. Now he's gonna prove to be our undoing in this fight, Buffy's undoing, and she will never, never see it coming. Now,
Okay, Connor, calm down.
needs to be.
Keep him locked up, sure, but I don't think you need to kill him.
What exactly do you propose?
Oh, no.
If you're going to be a general, you need to be able to make difficult decisions regardless of cost.
I mean, do you remember that time when she killed her boyfriend?
Live in the garage?
It's just a workroom.
And he's like, I'm not sure if you can make hard decisions. I think he's quite cross with you, buddy.
What the bloody hell is this? What's your story? Wood?
Wouldn't you like to know? Oh, God.
Completely oblivious to the damage he's doing to everyone around him.
I think you're doing a bit OTT with this, pal.
More about you than you think, Spike. I don't want to kill you, Spike. I want to kill the monster who took my mother away from me.
Ah. Shit!
There he is.
You might have tried to kill him before now if you wanted to kill the monster. Oh my. Heck.
You honestly thought I could bear an eternity listening to that twaddle?
Oh man.
That's right, all. Fight back!
I could have spared myself a lifetime of tedium and just dashed your brains out when I first saw you.
Bloody hell. This is like
It's me.
his first real conflict as a vampire,
Compared to your
paired with his latest one.
Would you let this vampire live if it meant saving the world?
Sure.
Here we go.
Seems like a nice enough guy.
Thanks.
No problem.
My name's Richard.
Hi, Rich.
Faced with the same choice now, you'd let her die.
If I had to. To save the world.
Oh man.
Yes.
And yet there is Spike.
Oh. Oh, taking the coat.
I loved you. I did. Not like this.
Just like this. This is what you've always wanted.
His mum has a very skewed look on love as a vampire.
No!
Seems to have passed that on. You're going to get impaled or something, aren't you?
I'm sorry.
What?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
See ya. Snapped him out of it, reliving it. He's always refused to relive that pain before.
Sorry. You think sorry's gonna make everything right?
I wasn't talking to you.
I don't give a piss about your mom. She was a Slayer. I was a vampire.
Oh dear.
That's the way the game is played.
That's a Buffy move.
She was my world.
And you weren't hers. Doesn't that piss you off?
Shut up. You didn't know her.
Parallels.
You see, unlike you, I had a mother who loved me back. When I sired her, I set loose a demon, and it tore into me. But it was a demon talking.
You killed me after all. I got
Your
my
mum did
free
love
will
you,
now.
I think.
I'm
He's
not
being
under the
mean.
first or anyone else's influence.
Spike's a liability, Buffy.
Shit.
I'm in the fight of my life.
Really?
Not you, Richard.
Won't Spike here, even after what he's done to you in the past.
It's different now. You're keeping me awake.
It's time to stop playing the role of general and to start being one.
Oh.
This is the way wars are won.
That's the guy who killed Ben to prevent Glory coming back.
Let him live. On account of the fact I killed his mother. But that's all he gets.
Oh boy.
I lost my mom a couple years ago.
Oh, let's not do this, please.
I came home and I found her dead on the couch. I'm preparing to fight a war, and you're looking for revenge on a man that doesn't exist anymore.
Buffy, don't delude yourself.
Oh.
That man still exists.
He'll kill you. More importantly, I'll let him.
Shit. Same thing with Spike and his mum. He's like, well, it was the demon saying those things. He's probably like,
Mission is what
it's the
matters.
demon that killed your mum, not me. Ah. It's what your mum said.
What I told you is still true. You need to learn.
No. I think you've taught me everything I need to know.
Ooh. Okay, another really great episode. Love this one a lot. The kind of running theme of mothers kind of going through it I thought was cool. And the various links between Wood and Spike that kind of carried a lot of the emotional weight of the episode, I think. And them kind of dealing with their mothers, you know, in like both flashbacks and present day, because we kind of saw glimpses of what their relationships were like, but they were also still dealing with the loss of their mothers and the impact their mums had on them in the present day. Tying to that, you know, Buffy mentioned Joyce briefly, trying to kind of understand Wood's situation, which I really liked as well. And yeah, just to see how the impact of a mother's kind of place in the world, I guess, or role in society can have on you, and how you can make peace with that if it's something you're not happy with. So, you know, Spike's, or I should probably say William's mother, when she became a vampire, you know, that was her kind of role in society now, to be this, you know, this demon. And that could lead her to say some unkind things to her son. And then Nikki's role as a Slayer led her to, you know, not always be able to be there for a young Robin. So I like the kind of parallels going on with that, and the fact that both these guys would, you know, they had to directly address their past with their mothers in this one. And it was good to finally get focus on this whole revelation that Spike killed, you know, Robin's mum, and his revenge on that. Because I think if it had been like another episode and they still hadn't really done much with it, I feel like it would have been like, why didn't you just wait and save this reveal for later then? Because I don't know, it just felt like you're just not exploring this, starting the revelation while it's still like shocking and there's still momentum for it. We're just gonna let it kind of fizzle out, and by the time, you know, they address the plot, I thought it was gonna be like, oh yeah, this is a thing, isn't it? But that was like 5 episodes ago. I feel like, you know, things have happened since then. So I'm glad they have kind of judged it fairly well in terms of when they explored this revelation, as things continue to escalate even further, and there's loads of divides happening right now. Pretty big divide at the end there with Buffy and Giles after everything as well. Buffy and Wood, I think there's definitely something, you know, a crack there as well. Spike and basically everyone, as it always is. But there's a lot of really complicated stuff going on with this, and I don't entirely know what I like and don't like and agree and disagree with. I can, again, it's one of those things where I try and see everyone's point of view, and I can, but there are a few things where I'm like, really, you're doing this? Because I do feel like Wood has tried to kill Spike in the past and has been tempted to kill him in the past, but all of a sudden in this episode, oh, I'm waiting for my moment. Actually, like you've tried to go for him before. And then you wanted to bring the monster out all of a sudden and play the song and everything, which was a cool moment, but I'm also like, are you stupid? What are you doing? And he ended up kind of being stupid to do that, because he ultimately got bested, but I suppose that was after Spike had gotten over his thing with his mum, which was holding him back, and that realisation that, you know, those cold, horrible things that his mum was saying to him probably came from being a demon. And I don't entirely agree with how Spike went at Wood after that. Especially because, you know, I thought the episode was going for the fact that they can relate on that kind of thing. And him being like, oh, I don't actually care about... I don't give a toss about your mum. I was a vampire, she was a slayer, that's how it was. But I suppose that's just different between vampires getting their souls back from, you know, one to the next, because Angel felt guilty about literally everyone he killed. You know, the whole point of amends was like him being haunted by all these people. Spike's like, yeah, it is what it is. So I was kind of thinking like, well, it just feels like he's just picking and choosing what he feels guilty about and what he wants to repent for. And I was like, well, that seems a bit weird. But then maybe if it had been anyone else but Wood, or if he'd only just met Wood in this episode for the first time, I think maybe then he would have handled it maybe a bit more sensitively and a bit more... You know, maybe he would have actually apologised and not been like, I wasn't talking to you, actually. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like that was how I would interpret it. Because we've seen Spike has, you know... We've seen him before kind of own the fact that he's killed a lot of people, but be like, well, I'm different now, I'm kind of making amends for it. This was just like, if some parts of this felt like, yeah, I've killed people, here's what it is. And he doesn't want to repent for it, and I'm like, what do you want then? Because it seems to change. But I think because even before he found all this out, that he was Nikki's son, Spike and Wood didn't necessarily get on. For Wood's reasons, he wasn't particularly, you know, warm and welcoming to Spike. So that probably made Spike not really like him either. And I thought, you know, in real life, if you hear, you know, it sounds kind of horrible, I guess, but you might hear something like, something's happened to someone that you're not particularly fond of, and you're like, oh, well, it's a shame, innit? Get what's coming to them. That's what they deserve. They bullied me at school or something. And then you see something bad happen to like a stranger on the news who seems nice, or someone you really care about, and you're like devastated for them and really kind of sympathetic or sometimes empathetic for them. So everyone kind of has those biases, I guess. So I guess it makes sense that Spike's not necessarily going to feel remorse for someone he's not particularly fond of, and maybe he doesn't necessarily mean everything he was saying to him about not entirely caring. It's just the way it was, and that was just the game. It's because he didn't like Wood very much. That's kind of how I see it in my own head, unless evidence to the contrary is presented. Because I want to, I want to hope that Spike is trying to work towards making amends for things, and just because he has a soul now and he does seem to be a different man, a different person, should we excuse him of things he did do when he was a vampire? I don't think so, because you have to hold Angel accountable, I think, and he certainly does for the things he does. It doesn't help that I think the show's blurred the lines a lot more when it came to Spike getting his soul back, and, is he the same person, is he not? Whereas I feel like the shows treat Angel and Angelus as very, very separate. But, Angel did do all those things as Angelus, and, that's why the Holtz plot in Angel worked so well, is because I think you need to hold Angel accountable for what happened when he was Angelus, and Buffy killing Angel at the end of season 2. It had to happen, because him becoming Angelus again kind of caused all those events to play out the way they did. He killed Jenny and stuff like that. We kind of see him go through that angst and amends and be like, oh, I'm going to kill myself because I can't live with this. I suppose you don't want to just repeat the same storyline with Spike all over again, so you could do something a bit different. But I do think you know, Angel and Jenny, they kind of got along prior to him snapping her neck, or at least, you know, they weren't bitter rivals or that had loads of disdain. Or I mean, Jenny wasn't a big fan of Angel, I don't think, from what I remember, because of the whole curse thing in her people and stuff. But I don't think Angel necessarily like, oh yeah, Jenny, I hate that bitch. But Spike and Wood do have that rivalry and that hate between them. So I guess it makes sense why Spike would act that way. Even I think it was a bit harsh of him to say, like, oh, your mum never cared about you at all. She only cared about being the Slayer, because that's just clearly not true. So I think that was a bit too far and a bit harsh. But again, it comes from a very selfish, impulsive thing to act and try and twist a knife and hurt someone that maybe you're not particularly fond of. So very interesting situation then. And while I think Wood, you know, when he was like, oh, I'm going to take my jacket off now and I'm going to put all these weird contraptions on so I can fight you properly, that was a bit like, buddy, come on, you know, like, please. Like, I feel bad for you already. You don't need to do this, because this is making me feel bad for you in a, like, oh dear kind of way. But, you know, he wanted revenge for his mum being taken from him. I get that. But when he was like, oh, you know, I don't want to kill you, Spike. I want to kill the creature that took my mum away. Like, you've tried to kill him before. He was like in full vampire mode. So again, impulsive decisions, I guess, and the fact that he was working with Giles on this, he probably could afford to be a bit crazier with the scheme to get rid of him, I guess, because he would have had Giles backing him up when it all was said and done. So I can see both sides, but I did like them properly exploring Spike's past and where, you know, exactly how the trigger kind of came to be. And that, like, seeing William again, seeing Drusilla was a very lovely surprise. I wasn't expecting to see more of her. In the past, she was like, you want to bring your mum with us? That was funny. How that came about. I wish we had more Drusilla, but maybe Juliet Landau couldn't do that much. Regardless, a very nice surprise. And to properly see, you know, Spike's mother and see her be so kind and sweet with her son, but she was dying. Spike turns her into this vampire, and then is it actually the demon saying those things, or is it just, you know, the mum's subconscious actually coming out and being like, you know what, your poetry's shit, I couldn't stand an eternity with you, and I'm going to kill you now instead of having to spend eternity with you. And then he had no choice but to kill her as well. So he had a lot of mother issues. You can see why he didn't want to necessarily revisit all those memories, and that's why he was holding back during interrogations and stuff. But I did like the realization. It was like, well, my mum did love me. That was the demon who said all those things all that time ago. So such a messy situation has kind of helped him in a way. But it's also, I think, shattered Robin, because now he's going to be thinking, oh, my mum did care about the duty. And when Buffy kind of said the same thing that his mum had said to him when he was younger, it's like, oh, well, maybe Spike's right. But I don't think that's the case. I feel sad that Wood may think that his mum doesn't really love him or doesn't love him enough compared to being the Slayer. That's the duty. You don't really have a choice. It doesn't seem that you can necessarily opt out of being the Slayer unless you die. So of course she had to do that. That was the way it was. But I like that we got a bit of backstory there, a glimpse of, you know, how Robin and Nikki were with each other. The fact that Nikki's watcher then ended up raising Wood, so that's how he kind of knows all this stuff and is very well trained. Because, you know, he put up a damn good fight. He's a very good fighter. So I liked getting a bit of backstory with that, and just finally address that whole messy, sticky situation. And Buffy's role in things as well. I do think it's safe to say there is a blind spot there, I think, when it comes to Spike. There was to Angel as well. You know, when he came back, she didn't tell anyone for a while. But she did ultimately make the hard choice when she had to kill Angel. So I did think it was weird that Giles would question that after he spent that whole episode in season 3 trying to trick Buffy into revealing exactly what went down with Angel, because he knew something was wrong and he knew she'd done something devastating. So for him to be like, oh, we need to make sure you can make the big decisions, maybe that was just his spiel to kind of keep her talking and keep her there while Wood did his thing or not, but I don't know. But again, while I don't necessarily agree with all of Giles' methods and his thought pattern there, we've also seen him make those big calls before, like at the end of season 5 when he killed Ben. He knows what it takes, and you know, a big part of why he left in season 6 was allow Buffy to grow into this, you know, her own woman in the world who has to do all these adult things, and he might be holding her back with his presence, and I don't think he wants to repeat that, and he may have thought he made a mistake with that. So, mistake. So now he's kind of done all of this. So I can see his side of things, because Spike did pose a danger. So I completely understand why Giles and Wood would be like, well, we need to get rid of Spike. There are other ways, and they could have tried first, but the way that would definitely have worked, I guess, is to kill him. So I don't blame them for necessarily thinking that or acting on that, but also, if you want Buffy to make the big decisions, why are you taking things into your own hands in regards to Spike? Let Buffy make the big decision. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot there. So like, what do you actually want to do then? So it's all very messy. I think a lot of people are being very impulsive, but I also understand where they're all coming from. And, you know, Buffy has a very complicated relationship with Spike after everything. Of course, she's not going to want him to die because of their history, because he's a good fighter, a capable fighter. But, you know, I don't think she should have released him. She should have probably kept him tied down at the very least, but she just let him out. So there's that. But she's under a lot of pressure as well. We've seen her be quite firm with people. So yeah, it's complicated. And what Giles was saying about, you know, instead of acting like a genuine, it's time for you to actually be one. I feel like we've seen her kind of be that. And on her journey to being that, you weren't around, buddy. You were in England doing God knows what, drinking tea. Again, I joke. I don't really blame anyone per se, but I do feel like the execution in all their motivations and how they carried them out, I think, held a lot to be desired. But also, that's very flawed, very human, very realistic for all of them. So I kind of get it. It's a very big mess, and the fact that, you know, there was a way to kind of sort out the problem with Spike's trigger and sort it out without him having to die and without, you know, him having to kill Wood in a fight or anything. I think that's what pissed Buffy off, that there was a way out of it without anyone having to die, but Giles was kind of taking that big decision. And that's why she was a bit pissed off at him at the end. You know, you're coming back here, so now you're my teacher, now you're my watcher, even though I've just come back from the dead and I was in a really horrible place, and you've just found out I was in heaven, I've been pulled back, and the next thing you do is fuck right off. But now you want to be my teacher, and now I have to make... Okay, I see how it is, Giles. I love you, buddy, but, you know, I know it's more meta than that, because Anthony Head wanted to be home with his family, which is completely fair enough. And I think they did a reasonable job of explaining why Giles should potentially go, but kind of follow through with that, I guess. So it's a very complicated thing, it's very messy. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about all of it, I just know it's messy. And therefore very human and realistic. But I liked what they were doing with that. I like the morally grey areas, because I feel like everyone's going to have a very different opinion on how everyone acted in this one. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think later on down the line when all is said and done. And I think I will have final judgments depending on how all this plays out. You know, if Spike ends up having a big role to play in the final battle, or if Wood has a big role to play in the final battle, you know, we're going to look back and be like, oh, I'm glad you did this, or oh, you should have done this. So really interesting, but there's a lot of cracks showing, and I think we're going to get to that point when they have like a big argument just before the season's out, very like Yoko Factor style. I'm like, oh my god, just listen to each other, people. But that's how you put dramatic tension up there, isn't it, before the end of a season? So I imagine it may get worse. So it wasn't all like, oh, Buffy, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, you know, let's move forward. Okay, Giles, it's okay, I may have made mistakes too. It wasn't like that. She's like, I think you've taught me everything I need to know, and slammed the door in his face. So there's tension, and I'm looking forward to seeing that explored. But I liked everything they did with it, the parallels between Spike and his mum, you know, his first real conflict, be a moral one, with having to like kill his vampire mum ultimately, versus his latest battle as a vampire with Wood. And yeah, how he kind of said afterwards about mum not caring. I mean, William had a way with words, in a way. I don't know if Spike necessarily carried that on after all these years, but fair enough. But yeah, what it comes down to is I can see everyone's side of things. I can see why they did what they did. So, you know, it is very human to try and be petty to people, towards people you don't necessarily like, try and twist a knife in. You're going to have a soft spot for people that maybe you were once romantically with or have lingering feelings for. Makes sense. So, you know, it's not like, oh, I can't even begin to fathom or come up with any remote reason why these characters would act this way. I can come up with those, so I'm kind of okay with how things are going. Ultimately, maybe I won't be, depending on where they take it, but for now, messy, mouldy grey, I live for that shit. So happy about that. And it was good to get some flashbacks to see William and how his mother was, and to see a bit of Drusilla as well. It was really kind of a lovely thing, and the key theme of mothers and relationships with mothers, absent mothers, deaths of mothers, kind of tying in a lot of core characters in this episode all together. And yeah, the fact that it wasn't so much focused on the potentials either. Obviously they're going to play a big role in things, but they're only going to be good and be their best if the people kind of guiding them and teaching them are all one cohesive unit. And right now, this episode kind of explored that that's not the case, because they're all doing their own things and all getting distracted by other stuff. And I think Xander kind of had a bit of a line at the start, like, oh yeah, let's just help Spike right now when we're like preparing for this big battle. But it did kind of need to be done. And also what Buffy said to Willow when Willow was like, I gots to go. She was like, well, if there's probably any good time to go, it's probably now. So this, I think, is the calm before the storm. And if there anything, you know, air your dirty laundry before shit hits the fan, this is the time to do it. So in that sense, I think it was just about well-timed addressing this whole Wood and Spike thing, and I'm glad that's over and done with now. Excited to see how Wood will be with Spike and with Buffy and everyone going forward, and how this is going to affect him. Hopefully he can kind of come to, you know, find some peace in his relationship with his mother in the way that Spike managed to do. So I do feel bad about that, and I felt like Spike was a bit harsh there. But yeah, interesting stuff with all of that. Very messy, but I did enjoy it a lot. And screw all of that, because I don't care about any of that stuff. Because did you hear Willow getting a call from Fred? Did you hear that shit? I did. That's all I could focus on. So if Willow shows up in Angel, I will die. I'm assuming, because we know what's going on in Angel right now. We know what Willow's managed to do to Angel before via a spell. This could be a good way of restoring some things if they get Willow involved, because she's probably done this shit, so she can get it done. And if that's the case, we could get Willow and Fred interacting and in the same room. We could get Willow and Faith in the same room again after God knows how long, like season 4 of Buffy. And I'm very, very excited, especially because I have Angel coming up next. And I'd like to see where that storyline goes, please. Thank you. So that prospect itself is hideously exciting to me, but that was also just a minor part of a really morally complex and grey episode, with some cool flashbacks to Spike's past and to Robin's past with Nikki. I did like Wood taking Spike's coat off after he defeated him, like paralleling that. That was a nice moment. I suppose there's a lot of parallels to Fall for Love in this one, which makes a lot of sense. It did feel very Fall for Lovey, you know, flashbacks with William having Nikki in there and her death kind of playing a major role in things. At the start, Spike did like a similar move, I think, like that. I don't know, Avatar kind of shit with the what was it? He was even had like a speary kind of thing. I don't even know. And you know, the taking of the coat, that was really cool. I liked how that was all explored, and I look forward to seeing the consequences of all of this, because yes, it's a hot mess and I'm here for it, but I don't want them to drag this out until the final ever episode and they all make amends just before the final battle. I hope we kind of don't drag it out for that long, because that would be, oh, you've done this before, please no. Especially because it's the last season. You want to see your favourite characters getting along while you still have a chance, you know? But it's also a TV show that needs conflict, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But overall, really enjoyed this episode a hell of a lot. Looking forward to see where they go with it. I believe the next episode to finish off this cycle, though, is going to be back to Angel, which I'm excited for now. Well, I was already excited for it because Angelus, Faith, here for it. But now it could get even more exciting. So yeah, really excited for that. And fantastic episode. How many episodes do we have left? 5? Terrifying. Final 5 episodes of Buffy. Ever. Exciting. But yeah, really like this one a hell of a lot. And until my next reaction, thanks for watching.